Life has a way of blindsiding you when you least expect it. I'm a military veteran who served 3 tours overseas. During my second tour, I took a piece of shrapnel to my right thigh that removed a chunk of muscle. The doctors did what they could, but I was left with chronic pain, limited mobility, and a noticeable limp when I get tired. I have a folding cane that I use when necessary, though I prefer not to. My partner and I had been living together in New Zealand for the past 2 years. She's American, and we decided to visit her parents in the States for Thanksgiving. It was my first time meeting them, and everything went great. Her family welcomed me with open arms. Then came the day we were supposed to fly back home together. At check-in, we were told of a visa issue with my partner's paperwork, not by the airline staff but by immigration officials who happened to be there. She couldn't leave the country until it was resolved, which could take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. We had about 30 minutes to process this information, make emergency plans, and say goodbye. I'm not usually emotional, but this broke me. My partner is my rock, my support system, especially when my disability acts up. The thought of being separated for up to a year was devastating. I somehow made it through security, though I was such a mess that the Transportation Security Administration officers had to help guide me through while I tried to stop crying. I felt embarrassed, but I couldn't control it. When I reached the gate, my emotional state hadn't improved. The flight wasn't boarding for another 90 minutes, and the waiting area was packed. Every seat was taken, with some people even sitting on the floor. My leg was already throbbing from standing too long at security, and I knew I'd need to sit down soon. I spotted a row of seats near a family, a couple with 2 kids playing on the floor. The parents had placed bags on 2 adjacent seats, taking the entire row for themselves. I limped over, still wiping tears from my face. I politely asked the woman if I could sit in one of those seats. She bluntly refused, claiming her kids were sitting there. I looked down at her children who were playing on the floor, not using the seats at all. I apologized for the bother and hobbled away. I found a wall I could lean against and pulled out my folding cane. The pain was getting worse, and I knew standing for the next hour and a half wasn't an option. About 15 minutes passed. I noticed one of the airline staff at the gate desk kept looking over at me. She was a no-nonsense type who I'd seen earlier scolding people trying to board out of turn. She got up from her desk, went over to speak with the woman who had refused to give up a seat, then approached me. The airline staff member asked about my disability, explaining that the woman had claimed I didn't walk with a limp or use a cane until after she refused me the seat. I explained that I couldn't show my injury without removing my pants, but I gave her permission to feel my thigh where a portion of muscle was missing from a combat-related injury. She thanked me, apologized for having to ask, then went back to the woman and told her to clear one of the seats. The woman removed her bags, and I was able to sit down. A few minutes later, the woman was visibly upset. She told her husband to wait there with the kids and walked off somewhere in the terminal. I just sat there, still wiping tears, trying to mind my own business. When she returned a few minutes later, she had airport security with her. 2 officers approached me and told me I needed to come with them, explaining that the woman had filed a complaint claiming I made threats against her children. I was stunned. I hadn't spoken a single word to the family since asking for the seat. The airline staff who had helped me earlier stepped in, telling the officers that the woman's claim was false. She explained that I had been sitting there the entire time, was upset when I arrived at the gate, and hadn't spoken to anyone except to ask for a seat. She added that the woman was just upset because she had to give up a seat she was using for her bags. The security officers looked skeptical, but the airline employee asked them to stay while she made a call. The guards agreed, and she went to the desk. When she returned, she was with what looked like a supervisor. The supervisor told the family that after reviewing the security footage, they were no longer welcome to fly with the airline and would not be traveling that evening. The woman protested, asking how they could do that since they had paid for their tickets. The supervisor explained that falsely accusing another passenger of threatening her children was a serious issue and against their policy. When the woman asked where they were supposed to go, the supervisor told her they would need to speak with another airline if they wished to travel that day, and that security would take them to the main terminal. The family was led away by the security officers. with the woman still protesting. I sat there feeling guilty for causing a scene, even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Eventually, I pulled myself together. When it was time to board, I lined up and presented my ticket to the same airline employee who had helped me earlier. She recognized me as the gentleman who had been harassed and told me that while they couldn't upgrade my seat, they had decided to move me to a whole row by myself so I could be more comfortable. I thanked her, but when the plane started taxiing, all the emotions I've been trying to contain came rushing back. The reality of being separated from my partner for months hit me all over again, and I broke down. I pressed the airplane pillow against my face to muffle my sobs, not wanting to disturb the other passengers. A flight attendant noticed and came over, looking concerned. She asked if I was all right and if there was anything she could do to help. I explained between sobs that my breakdown had nothing to do with the incident at the gate, but that I'd just been separated from my partner due to unexpected visa issues and might not see her for up to a year. The flight attendant told me she was sorry to hear that and would see what she could do to make my flight more bearable. Throughout the 16-and-a-half-hour flight, the Air New Zealand crew was incredible. They brought me an extra blanket, offered me hot meals even between regular service times, and provided complimentary scotch to help me sleep. One attendant even sat with me for a few minutes during a quiet period, just listening as I talked about my partner and our situation. I've flown with Air New Zealand for over a decade, but this experience showed me how far their staff will go to take care of their passengers. In what was probably the worst day of my life, they showed me kindness and compassion. As for the entitled woman who tried to have me removed from the flight, I later heard from another passenger that she and her family had to book with another airline for a flight leaving the next day, costing them an extra night in a hotel and more expensive last-minute tickets. I worked at one of those fancy Tex-Mex restaurants where they charge $12 for a taco that cost them maybe $1 to make. The job wasn't terrible, decent co-workers, manageable hours, and most customers were nice. But in customer service, you remember the difficult ones more than the pleasant ones. This day started like any other. Lunch rush had died down, and I was looking forward to a breather before the dinner crowd came in. That's when she walked in with her oversized sunglasses pushed up on her head. I could feel trouble coming. She sat down at one of my tables, and I put on my customer service smile. I greeted her and asked if I could start her off with something to drink. She told me she wanted water with no ice and a lemon wedge on a separate plate, not touching the water. I nodded and went to get her water. When I returned, she was ready to order. She told me she wanted 2 quesadillas. I started to explain what came with our quesadillas: 3 cheese blend, grilled chicken, and peppers. But she cut me off. She told me she needed them gluten-free, dairy-free, and vegan. I asked about the cheese, and she confirmed she didn't want any. I then mentioned that since she wanted vegan, there would be no chicken either, which she said was obvious. I asked if she wanted our black bean substitute. She said no beans and no peppers because she was avoiding nightshades. I asked what she actually wanted in her quesadilla. She said just lettuce and tomato on our gluten-free tortilla. I told her that what she wanted wasn't really a quesadilla anymore. I suggested I could ring up her order as a veggie wrap, which would only cost $2.25 instead of the $12 quesadilla price, and offered to warm up the tortilla for her. She said no and told me she wanted the quesadilla made her way. I tried again to explain that I was trying to save her money, pointing out that the quesadilla was $12 because it came with premium ingredients that she was asking us to remove. She cut me off, saying she knew what she wanted, and if I couldn't understand, I should get the manager. I took a breath. Sometimes it's not worth arguing with customers. If she wanted to pay $12 for a warmed-up tortilla with lettuce and tomato, who was I to stop her? I confirmed her order and went to put it in. When I brought out her order, she gave me a smirk and said she knew I could do it. That made my blood boil. I was trying to help her and she was acting like I was the difficult one. But I kept my composure and continued with my other tables. About 20 minutes later, I brought her the bill and started to walk away when she yelled for me to come back. Everyone around us stopped eating and looked over. I felt embarrassed as I turned back to her table. I asked what I could help her with. She wanted to know why her bill was $24 for two quesadillas. I told her the price on the menu was $12 each. She said she didn't get any of the included items. I reminded her that she ordered two quesadillas, and that's what she got charged for. She got angry, said the charge was ridiculous and she wouldn't pay. She told me to get the manager. I found my manager who had been watching from across the restaurant. He said he would handle it and followed me back to her table. The manager asked about the problem with her bill. She said I tried to charge her full price for quesadillas that didn't have any ingredients in them. The manager told her that I had offered a cheaper option, but she asked for the quesadilla. She said it was just a tortilla with vegetables. The manager pointed out that this was why I had suggested the veggie wrap, but since she ordered from the quesadilla section, we charged accordingly. She realized she wasn't going to win. She said she would never return to our restaurant. The manager asked if she would pay with cash or card. She put her credit card on the table. I ran it through, brought back the receipt for her to sign, and she left. No tip. The table next to hers applauded after she left, and one of them gave me an extra $10. He said it was for dealing with that customer. You can lead a customer to a cheaper option, but you can't make them order it. This happened about a year ago, but it still makes me laugh to this day. I'm a bona fide nerd. I love anime, video games, and pretty much anything that falls into the geek culture category. My family has been supportive of my interests, even if they don't always understand them. They drive me to conventions and wait while I geek out over merchandise. When Black Friday rolled around last year, I was excited to hit the sales with my family. My mom, dad, aunt, uncle, and grandmother all came along. We've been up since 3 a.m. hitting various shopping complexes, and I was running on energy drinks and adrenaline by the time we decided to end the day with an escape room at the mall. When we arrived at the escape room place, the staff told us they needed time to reset the puzzles since another group had just finished. They took my mom's number and said they'd text when the room was ready. We all split up to browse different stores while we waited. I headed straight to Hot Topic, hoping to find merchandise from my favorite anime or games. While browsing, I spotted a My Hero Academia keychain with Kirishima on it and mumbled to myself about how I wished he had more merchandise. An employee heard me and we started chatting about the anime, sharing our opinion that Kirishima deserved more attention beyond just being shipped with other characters. After our conversation, she went back to stocking shelves and I continued browsing the jewelry section. That's when I heard someone asking for help, but I ignored it because I don't work there. I was wearing a My Hero Academia t-shirt, jeans, a heavy blue coat, gray and black sneakers, a Hufflepuff baseball cap, and a 2018 graduate lanyard with buttons from games and shows all over it, plus my library card and a thumb drive attached at the end. A woman grabbed my wrist, forcing me to look at her. I hate being grabbed by the wrist. It's almost the same as being slapped for me. I know how to escape a wrist grab, so I pulled away. Because she was pulling so hard, she fell backward and landed on her butt. Karen shouted at me, demanding to know what was wrong with me. I explained that I didn't like being grabbed by the wrist and that it was like being slapped to me. I added that she shouldn't grab people because she never knows how they might react. Karen blamed me for not helping her and complained about millennials these days. I told her I didn't work there and was just a nerd. Karen asked if I could help her find a specific Funko Pop figure. I told her that the Funko Pops were along the back wall, but I wasn't sure how they were organized. I suggested she look there or ask an actual employee at the counter or someone with a staff badge. She walked off to look for her pop figure. I finished browsing and headed to GameStop since my mom hadn't texted me yet. I put my lanyard in my purse to keep my thumb drive safe. At GameStop I found several games I wanted: World of Final Fantasy, Persona 5, Nathan Drake, Uncharted Collection, and Stardew Valley. I asked the employee at the front if he could hold them until my next payday. He warned me I wouldn't get the Black Friday prices, but I was okay with that since GameStop frequently has good sales. When I got a text from my mom saying our escape room was ready, I noticed some games left on the floor by customers. I decided to place them back on the shelf. That's when Karen spotted me again. She said this must be where I work, and she was looking for a PlayStation 4 game but had no idea where to look. I tried to explain that I didn't work here either and was just about to leave. Karen said I was lying because she had seen me putting games away. I explained that my dad used to work in retail, so I understood how hard it could be. I had just been putting the games back because it was a pet peeve of mine. I really didn't work there. Karen said I wasn't being nice but was stocking shelves. At this point, I was losing my patience. I slowly told her that I didn't work at GameStop or Hot Topic and was just a huge nerd. A GameStop employee came over and asked what the problem was. Karen said I was refusing to help her and lying about not working there. She said I worked there because she saw me putting games away and demanded to speak to the manager. The employee said I didn't work there and never had. He said I shopped there regularly and sometimes helped pick up misplaced items, but I wasn't an employee. Karen still didn't believe him and demanded to speak to his manager about both our behaviors. The employee agreed, and what happened next was cool. He walked 3 steps away, turned around, and came back. He said he was the manager and asked if Karen had a complaint about a customer being honest. Karen's mouth dropped open. Before she could speak, the employee pointed out that I wasn't wearing their uniform. He described the GameStop employee dress code: slacks was either a company polo or t-shirt, and lanyards with staff badges. He said I was wearing a bright green anime shirt and jeans with no lanyard, proving I didn't work there. Karen argued that I had a lanyard earlier at Hot Topic. I said I had taken it off to avoid being mistaken for an employee again. I used it to hold my keys, library card, and flash drive. I was an office worker and didn't work at either GameStop or Hot Topic. I gave her a dirty glare. I told her my name, said she killed my mood, and told her to screw off. As I walked out of the store, she tried to speak again, but I turned and glared at her. I warned her that if she saw me at Mythic Escapes, I didn't work there either, and if she bothered me again, I would consider it harassment and call the police. She backed off, and my family enjoyed the story when I told them later. I went back to GameStop a few days later to get my games, and the employee told me that the lady freaked out when I pulled the Inigo Montoya line from The Princess Bride, because her name actually was Karen. I planned my son's 10th birthday party for months. He looked forward to it since his last birthday ended, and I wanted everything to be perfect. I booked the indoor trampoline park 3 months early, sent invitations 6 weeks ahead, and tracked RSVPs for food and goodie bags. Everything went smoothly until 3 nights ago when my phone buzzed with a message from one of the mothers. I didn't know her well. Her son and mine are in the same class but not close friends. When my son wanted to invite his entire class, I agreed. Her son had RSVP'd yes 2 weeks ago. I checked my phone and found a message that surprised me. The mother said she realized her son had a soccer game Saturday, at the same time as the birthday party. She asked if I could move the party to Sunday, saying this game was important for her son. Was she serious? Move an entire birthday party that 20 other kids were attending, plus the venue booking, just because her son suddenly had a soccer game? I took a breath and wrote back. In my reply, I said I was sorry about the conflict, but we couldn't change the party date. I mentioned we had confirmed with the venue and all other families and understood if her son couldn't come. She wrote back saying this soccer game was important. She called it the semifinals and said the coach wanted everyone there. She said her son wanted to come to the party too and suggested moving it to the following weekend. I read her message twice. She was still asking me to reschedule for a 10-year-old's soccer game. These games aren't Olympic trials. I wrote back that rescheduling was impossible because the party had been planned for months. I said I was sorry her son would miss it, but she kept going, asking if I could check with the venue about the next weekend. She said her son would be sad to miss the party but couldn't miss the game, adding that the coach was strict about attendance. I was getting frustrated but tried to stay civil. I told her the venue was booked for several weekends, which was why we reserved early. I mentioned we had ordered the cake and bought decorations with the date, and that all other families had made plans for Saturday. I ended by wishing her son's team good luck, I thought that would finish the conversation, but no. She suggested Friday evening or Saturday morning before the game. She said other parents would understand if plans changed. She complained it was unfair to make her son choose between the party and his team. Unfair? What was unfair was expecting 20 families and a business to change schedules because she didn't mark her son's soccer game on her calendar. I paused before answering. My final response was simple. I said we could not change the party date or time. I noted this put her son in a tough spot, but the plans were set. I added that we'd miss him if he couldn't come but would save a goodie bag for him. She wrote back saying I didn't understand how important this game was, that it wasn't just a regular match but something the team worked toward all season. Then she asked if I could do something special just for her son another day or postpone what she called the main celebration. Did she expect me to have a separate party just for her son? Or postpone the main celebration like my son's birthday was a festival that could be rescheduled? I stopped responding. I read her message, shook my head, and put my phone down. The next morning I woke up to a new suggestion. She said Tuesday after school could work for them since there was no practice that day. She said the trampoline place probably wasn't busy on weekdays and asked if that worked. Tuesday, a school night, for a birthday party with 20 energetic kids? I didn't respond. The party happened as planned on Saturday. 19 kids bounced around for 2 hours, ate cake, and had fun. My son said it was his best birthday ever. The entitled mother. Her son showed up halfway through the party, still in his soccer uniform. The crucial game had ended early, and she avoided looking at me the whole time.